Good morning/afternoon/evening, everyone. Life is a battle, but the greatest opponent you will ever face is not the world, not society, not your circumstances, it is yourself. Every day you wake up with two choices: to be ruled by impulse or by wisdom, to be controlled by emotions or to master them, to react or to respond. The war is not against others, it is you versus you. Life presents countless challenges, difficult people, unexpected hardships, failures and disappointments. But none of these are the real enemy. The greatest struggle, the most important battle, is not against the external world but within yourself. It is the silent war between who you are and who you could be, between your impulses and your wisdom, between your fears and your potential. This battle is never-ending, and it is the only one that truly matters. The world will test you, but the outcome of these tests is not determined by circumstances. It is determined by how you respond to them. Most people believe their problems come from the outside, from the actions of others, from fate, from things beyond their control. They blame their failures on bad luck, their unhappiness on the world, and their lack of success on external forces. But the truth is, nothing outside of you has the power to break you unless you allow it. Adversity does not make you weak, your reaction to it does. Insults do not offend you, your interpretation of them does. Failure does not define you, your response to it does. Everything is filtered through the mind, and it is within your mind that the real struggle takes place. Most people live as slaves to their emotions. They let anger dictate their actions, fear prevent them from taking risks, and desire pull them in directions that lead to suffering. But a person who is ruled by emotions is not free. They are at the mercy of whatever feelings arise in the moment, like a ship tossed by the waves, directionless and weak. True strength comes not from controlling the world, but from controlling yourself. To win the internal battle, you must become the master of your own mind. This means learning to observe your emotions without being controlled by them, choosing your response instead of reacting impulsively, and training yourself to remain steady, no matter what storms arise around you. Discipline is the key. Without discipline, you will always be at war with yourself, torn between what you want in the moment and what is truly best for you in the long run. The weak seek comfort, pleasure, and immediate gratification, but the strong understand that real satisfaction comes from self-mastery. It is easy to give in to temptation, to follow the path of least resistance, to justify excuses. But none of these things will bring lasting peace. The more you give in to weakness, the more power it gains over you. The more you delay action, the more difficult it becomes to act. The more you let your emotions rule you, the more they dictate your life. But the opposite is also true. The more you choose strength, the stronger you become. The more you practice control, the more control you gain. The more you train your mind to be disciplined, the less power distractions and temptations will have over you. The fear is one of the greatest enemies in this battle. It whispers doubts into your mind, keeps you from taking risks, convinces you that you are not capable. But fear is an illusion. It is nothing more than thoughts in your mind, and thoughts can be controlled. Fear only has power over you if you listen to it. The way to overcome fear is not to avoid it, but to confront it, to recognize that fear is a test, an obstacle placed in your path, not to stop you, but to strengthen you. Every time you choose courage over fear, you win a battle within yourself. The battle within is lifelong. It is fought in every decision you make, in every challenge you face, in every moment where you must choose between weakness and strength. There is no final victory, no moment where you have conquered yourself completely. Growth is continuous, but every time you choose discipline over indulgence, control over impulse, courage over fear, you take another step forward. And in the end, the only thing that truly matters is whether you fought the battle or let yourself be defeated. Life is unpredictable. No matter how much effort you put into planning, things will not always go your way. People will disappoint you, circumstances will shift, and obstacles will arise when you least expect them. But fighting against what you cannot change is like trying to hold back the ocean with your hands. It is an impossible task, and the more you resist, the more you suffer. The only true path to peace is learning to recognize what is within your control and what is not, and then focusing all your energy on mastering what you can while releasing what you cannot. Many people live their lives consumed by frustration and anxiety because they waste their energy trying to change things that are beyond them. They grow angry at the weather, resentful of the past, fearful of the future, and obsessed with the opinions of others. But none of these things are truly theirs to command. No amount of anger will change the outcome of an event that has already happened. No amount of worry will prevent an uncertain future. No amount of effort will make another person think, feel, or act the way you want them to. This is a battle you cannot win, and the more you fight it, the more exhausted and bitter you become. True strength lies in discipline over the self. Your thoughts, your actions, your responses, these are the only things that belong to you. Everything else is external, and the wise person does not attach their happiness to things they cannot influence. If you are stuck in traffic, you cannot move the cars ahead of you, but you can control your reaction. If someone insults you, you cannot stop their words, but you can choose whether or not to take offense. If you fail at something, you cannot undo the failure, but you can decide whether to learn from it or let it break you. This is where your power lies, not in changing the world, but in changing yourself. The mind is often its own worst enemy. It clings to what it wants reality to be, instead of accepting reality as it is. It imagines endless what-ifs and if-onlys, torturing itself over scenarios that do not exist. But what is the point of wishing for something to be different when it cannot be? The past is set. The present is unfolding as it must. The future is uncertain. Wishing for anything else is a distraction from what can actually be done in the moment. The only logical course of action is to accept things as they are and direct all effort toward what can be improved. Acceptance is not weakness. It is not passivity. It does not mean giving up or failing to act where action is needed. It means understanding the limits of control and putting energy only where it can be useful. It means recognizing that some battles are unwinnable and walking away from them with peace rather than frustration. It means making the best choices possible within the circumstances given, rather than wishing for different circumstances. This is the mindset that allows a person to remain unshaken no matter what happens, because their inner peace is never dependent on the outside world. Most suffering does not come from reality itself, but from resistance to it. A person who loses a job and immediately focuses on the next opportunity will suffer far less than the person who spends months complaining about how unfair it was. A person who faces rejection and moves forward with confidence will be stronger than the one who obsesses over what went wrong. The difference is not in the situation, but in the response. Two people can experience the same event, yet one finds peace and the other finds misery. The choice is always there. To control what is yours and accept what is not is the key to resilience. It is the path to true freedom, because no external force can disturb the mind that has mastered itself. A person who learns this lesson will never be at the mercy of fate, for they will always have control over the most important thing of all, themselves. A person who is ruled by their emotions is not free. They are a prisoner to every passing feeling, tossed around by anger, fear, desire, and frustration. They react impulsively, driven by whatever emotion is strongest in the moment, without considering the consequences. They let external events dictate their inner state, allowing themselves to be controlled by the actions of others and the unpredictability of life. This is not strength, this is weakness. True strength comes from emotional mastery, and true freedom is found in being able to control one's own mind rather than being controlled by it. Emotions themselves are not the enemy. They are natural, unavoidable, and serve a purpose. Fear warns of danger. Anger signals injustice. Desire pushes toward action. But emotions are meant to be understood, not obeyed without question. The mistake most people make is allowing emotions to take control, rather than recognizing them as fleeting reactions that can be observed and managed. When a person is ruled by anger, they say things they regret, act in ways that harm themselves and others, and lose their ability to think clearly. When they are ruled by fear, they hesitate, avoid challenges, and remain trapped in comfort rather than striving for growth. When they are ruled by desire, they chase pleasures that do not last, becoming slaves to their cravings instead of finding deeper fulfillment. Freedom begins the moment a person realizes that emotions are not commands. Just because one feels anger does not mean they must act on it. Just because fear arises does not mean they must retreat. Just because desire tempts them does not mean they must give in. The ability to pause, to observe, to question, and then to choose a response rather than react impulsively is what separates the wise from the weak. This is mastery of the self, and it is the only mastery that truly matters. Emotional mastery does not mean suppressing emotions. Suppression is not control, it is avoidance, and what is avoided only grows stronger in the shadows. A person who ignores their anger will eventually explode. A person who pretends they do not feel fear will still be controlled by it. True mastery comes from facing emotions directly, acknowledging them without being consumed by them, and choosing how to respond with clarity and purpose. This requires self-awareness, discipline, and constant practice. A person who has mastered their emotions is unshaken by external events. If they are insulted, they do not react with rage because they understand that another person's words have no power over them unless they allow it. If they face failure, they do not sink into despair because they know failure is a lesson, not a defeat. If they experience loss, they do not become bitter because they recognize that loss is part of life and that suffering comes not from the event itself, but from resistance to it. This kind of freedom is rare because it requires effort. Most people prefer to justify their emotions rather than take responsibility for them. They blame others for making them angry, instead of recognizing that anger is their own reaction. They blame fear for holding them back instead of understanding that fear is only a thought, not a physical barrier. They blame circumstances for their unhappiness instead of realizing that happiness is a choice that comes from within, not something granted by the world. A person who has achieved emotional mastery is unbreakable. No insult can wound them, no setback can discourage them, no temptation can sway them from their path. They walk through life with clarity, purpose, and peace, because they are not at the mercy of every fleeting emotion. They choose their responses, and in doing so they choose their destiny. This is true power. This is true freedom. Templar. Most people spend their lives chasing approval. They shape their words, their actions, and even their thoughts to fit what they believe others expect of them. They crave recognition, praise, and acceptance, believing that their worth is defined by how others see them. But to live for external validation is to live as a prisoner. It is to hand over control of one's happiness, confidence, and identity to forces beyond one's command. True freedom comes from detaching from the opinions of others and recognizing that self-worth is built from within, not granted from the outside. The world is filled with voices. Some will praise, some will criticize, some will misunderstand. No matter what one does, there will always be someone who disapproves. A person who seeks universal approval will find only exhaustion, because it is impossible to satisfy everyone. The opinions of others are inconsistent and ever-changing. One day the crowd will cheer, the next it will turn its back. To tie one's sense of worth to such an unstable source is to guarantee insecurity and suffering. Seeking validation is a form of dependency. It places one's happiness in the hands of others, making it fragile and uncertain. If a compliment brings joy and a criticism brings misery, then one is not in control of their own emotions. Other people are. This is no different from slavery, except that the chains are invisible. The only way to be truly free is to break this attachment and understand that external approval is neither necessary nor meaningful in determining one's true value. A person who lives for validation will never truly know themselves. They will mold their identity to fit the expectations of those around them, becoming whatever gains them the most approval. But in doing so, they lose their authenticity. They become a reflection of others rather than an individual. They hesitate to speak their true thoughts, to pursue what they genuinely desire, or to stand alone when necessary. Their existence becomes performance rather than reality. This is a shallow way to live, built on fear rather than strength. Detaching from external validation does not mean ignoring feedback or rejecting all opinions. There is wisdom in listening to those who offer insight, especially from those who are experienced and trustworthy. But listening is different from dependence. Feedback should be considered with reason, not blindly accepted or feared. If criticism is valid, it should be used as a tool for growth. If it is empty or malicious, it should be discarded without a second thought. Either way, it should never dictate self-worth. The pursuit of validation often leads people away from their true path. They make choices based on what will impress others rather than what is right. They seek careers, relationships, and lifestyles that look good in the eyes of society, even if they bring no real fulfillment. But what is the value of approval if it comes at the cost of personal integrity? A person who betrays themselves to gain validation will eventually find that no amount of recognition can fill the void left by a lack of authenticity. True confidence comes from within. It is built through action, discipline, and self-respect. A person who knows their own worth does not need constant reassurance. They do not chase applause, nor do they fear criticism. They move through life with quiet certainty, making decisions based on principle rather than popularity. They are not swayed by the shifting tides of public opinion because they stand on solid ground, their own judgment, character, and values. The moment one stops seeking validation, they become truly powerful. They no longer hesitate out of fear of judgment. They no longer waste energy trying to control how others perceive them. They are free to think, to act, to be. And in this freedom they find something far greater than approval. They find themselves. Strength is not found in fleeting bursts of motivation, nor is wisdom gained by chance. The path to mastery, of the self, of the mind, of life itself, lies in discipline and self-awareness. These two qualities shape the foundation of a life lived with purpose and control. Without them, a person drifts, reacting to circumstances rather than shaping them, enslaved by impulse rather than guided by reason. But with them, one becomes unshakable, capable of facing adversity with clarity and responding to challenges with wisdom. Discipline is the ability to act according to what is right rather than what is easy. It is the ability to resist distraction, to endure discomfort, to choose long-term growth over immediate pleasure. Without discipline, even the most capable person will achieve little, for talent without effort is wasted potential. The mind, like the body, must be trained. Just as a warrior does not become strong without years of practice, the mind does not become steady without consistent effort. It is discipline that transforms knowledge into action, that turns good intentions into habits, and that forges character through trial. Every moment presents a choice, to act with discipline or to surrender to weakness. When the body is tired, discipline pushes forward. When emotions cloud judgment, discipline restores clarity. When temptation calls, discipline remains unmoved. Those who lack discipline live at the mercy of their moods. They act when they feel like it, and so they achieve little. They make promises to themselves that they do not keep. They seek shortcuts, easy paths, and comforts that provide no lasting satisfaction, and so they remain stagnant, trapped by their own lack of will. But discipline alone is not enough. Without self-awareness, discipline can become blind rigidity, a set of rules followed without understanding. Self-awareness is the ability to observe oneself honestly, to recognize strengths, weaknesses, patterns of thought, and unconscious habits. It is the skill of stepping outside oneself and seeing reality as it is, without illusion or justification. A person without self-awareness may be disciplined in the wrong things, pursuing goals that do not truly serve them, clinging to beliefs that no longer hold value, or repeating mistakes without understanding why. To cultivate self-awareness, one must develop the habit of reflection. The unexamined life is ruled by habit, reaction, and external influence. But a person who reflects on their actions, thoughts, and choices gains the power to change. They recognize their tendencies, where they are weak, where they lack control, where they deceive themselves. They do not make excuses, they do not blame circumstances. They simply observe, learn, and adjust. This is the foundation of growth. Self-awareness requires humility, for it demands that one see themselves as they truly are, not as they wish to be. It requires the courage to confront one's own flaws, without self-pity and without arrogance. Many people avoid this kind of deep honesty because it is uncomfortable. It is easier to distract oneself, to blame others, to seek approval rather than truth. But those who lack self-awareness remain trapped, unable to change because they do not understand what must be changed. When discipline and self-awareness are combined, a person becomes unstoppable. They have the strength to take action and the wisdom to direct that action wisely. They do not act blindly, nor do they hesitate out of doubt. They are able to see their own weaknesses clearly and have the discipline to correct them. They are not controlled by emotions, external pressures, or fleeting desires, because they have trained themselves to act with purpose. This is the path to mastery, the way to build a life of meaning and resilience. Those who embrace discipline and self-awareness will never be lost, for they carry within them the tools to navigate any challenge. They will not be easily shaken, for they have built themselves into something strong. They will not drift aimlessly, for they know who they are and where they are going. And in this they will find true freedom, the ability to live by their own principles, guided by wisdom and fortified by will. Comfort is seductive. It whispers promises of ease, of security, of a life without struggle. It lures people into complacency, convincing them that the avoidance of difficulty is the highest good. But comfort is a deceptive master, for while it may provide temporary relief, it does not build strength, it does not forge resilience, it does not cultivate wisdom. Those who prioritize comfort over character may find themselves safe, but they will also find themselves weak. They will live small lives shaped by fear of discomfort rather than pursuit of growth. Character is built in struggle. It is in hardship that a person discovers who they truly are. No one develops discipline in a life of ease. No one cultivates courage without first facing fear. No one learns patience, endurance, or resilience without being tested. It is the trials of life that refine the soul, just as fire tempers steel. To seek only comfort is to reject the very experiences that make a person strong. It is to remain soft, untested, and ill-prepared for the inevitable challenges that life will bring. Many people choose comfort because they fear suffering. They avoid failure, conflict, and discomfort at all costs. They take the easy path, even when they know it is not the right one. They avoid difficult conversations, fearing rejection. They avoid challenges, fearing failure. They choose immediate gratification over long-term fulfillment, not realizing that in doing so, they trade away their own potential. But suffering is not the enemy, it is a teacher. Those who embrace difficulty, who face their fears rather than run from them, are the ones who grow. They are the ones who develop unshakable character. The pursuit of comfort weakens the mind. It creates a habit of avoidance, a mindset of dependency, a life dictated by fear rather than purpose. A person who always chooses what is easy will never achieve greatness, for nothing great is accomplished without effort. Comfort may feel good in the moment, but it leads to stagnation. A person who refuses to challenge themselves will look back and realize they have remained the same while the world has moved forward. True fulfillment does not come from comfort, it comes from overcoming. The joy of mastery comes only after years of discipline. The pride of resilience comes only after enduring hardship. The peace of wisdom comes only after facing struggle with an open heart. These things cannot be gained by avoiding discomfort. They must be earned, and once earned, they can never be taken away. Choosing character over comfort means making difficult decisions. It means doing what is right rather than what is easy. It means pushing forward when the body is tired, when the mind is uncertain, when doubt creeps in. It means embracing discomfort as a necessary part of growth, rather than something to be feared. It means holding oneself to a higher standard, refusing to settle for mediocrity, and never allowing fear to dictate one's actions. The world is filled with distractions designed to keep people comfortable. Endless entertainment, empty gratification, empty pleasures. These things promise happiness but deliver only numbness. They keep people passive, preventing them from facing the deeper questions of life. But those who choose character over comfort reject these illusions. They seek meaning over mindlessness. They accept discomfort as part of the process. They understand that the greatest rewards come not from avoiding hardship, but from overcoming it. The choice is always there, to take the easy road or the right one, to remain stagnant or to grow, to live for comfort or to live with purpose. Those who choose comfort may find momentary ease, but they will never know the deep satisfaction of a life lived with strength. Those who choose character, however, will find something far greater. They will find resilience, purpose, and an unshakable sense of self. They will walk through life with confidence, knowing that no matter what challenges come, they are prepared, not because they have avoided struggle, but because they have embraced it. The path of character is not the easy one, but it is the only one worth walking. Comfort fades, but strength endures. Those who choose to challenge themselves, to embrace discomfort, to live with discipline and purpose, will find a deeper satisfaction than comfort could ever provide. They will look back, not with regret, but with pride, knowing that they did not take the easy way out, that they did not shrink from hardship, but instead rose to meet it. In the end, it is not comfort that defines a life well lived, but the courage to choose growth over ease, purpose over pleasure, and character over comfort.